What's your impression of Australians and in particular Australian businesses?
Well, we love Australia. The unfortunate thing is, on our way down to Australia, we spent
Mhm.
some time in Dubai just to split the journey up, and then some time in Singapore. And Julie got a detached retina. So when we arrived in Adelaide, the
Oh,
first thing we went to was a hospital, and uh, and she had the operation that day. And
yeah, wow.
they told us she couldn't fly for 6 weeks. We were only due to be there 2 weeks. So
Okay. At least you got to stay a little longer.
yeah, so we had to stay along. And we have friends down there. We have part of some family, so it was quite good. We ended up with just over 6 weeks, and we had some real fun.
Very good, very good. And obviously you've got some offices here. From your experience, have you noticed any differences or similarities in the Australian market compared to, you know, the others like the US or the UK? You've had a global brand, so is there many similarities or differences that you've picked up on?
It was a very friendly market. What we did pick up on is that it's difficult to find Starbucks, but
Uh-huh.
the coffee in Australia, the coffee in Australia is incredible. You couldn't
In
we
particular,
Yeah.
Adelaide.
Well, Adelaide was great and everywhere, yeah. We couldn't get
Yeah.
it. We couldn't find a bad cup of coffee. So and everybody was very welcoming and very open and very easy to talk to. So it's a great market down there, and I think this is why we're probably coming down to investigate more of the market.
Yeah, nice. Obviously you've built a huge brand and a huge business in Reebok. Obviously I've read through a little bit of your story, but at what stage through that growth would you say was the most difficult?
At what stage? Well, uh, most difficult. I guess getting into America was probably the difficult stage, and that's the one we wanted most because that was the big market.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, of
with
course.
350 million Americans, and mainly they speak English, which is good because going to Europe, I would have had 28 different languages, and that would have been difficult to get to Europe. Uh, it took a little longer to get to Europe, but getting to America and the disposable income of the Americans was incredible. You know,
Yeah,
it's 5 to 10 times more disposable income than your average European at that
yeah.
time in the sort of late 50s and during the 60s. So that was the reason. And I first went there in 1968. My first
Okay.
trip to Chicago, where they had the NSGA show. It's the National Sporting Goods of America. They have that in
Hmm.
Chicago, and I went in 1968, and I actually got into America in 1979.
Okay. Okay. And did you kind of find that, once you'd gotten into the American market and kind of had some success there that, that helped the brand grow across the globe as well? Was that the kind of the linchpin?
Absolutely. There's no question
Okay.
about it. The one thing that was very obvious, certainly in the sort of latter part of the 20th century, is that the American influence globally was incredible.
Mm, yeah.
Because after I got um, a licensee there in America, I then left it to them to work hard and do the job. The last thing they wanted was a Brit to try and run a company in America. It was leave it to the Americans. It would be the same in Australia. In fact, although we did get South Africans to run the company in Australia, they'd emigrated away from South Africa. But
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
and the Americans, they did as well. They did us proud. They took us from a $9 million company to $900 million in 4 years.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Not too bad growth there.
Not too bad, but it was all to do with women. They,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we were a running company when we arrived, but of course, when the Americans discovered aerobics, and we
Mm,
pivoted into aerobics, um, that was it. We became a woman's company, and incredible growth.
I guess at the time that, that was probably a huge untapped market. And, obviously at one point Reebok was the biggest and probably most recognized sports brand. Um, way bigger than Nike and Adidas. And what was that always the goal? Was that the goal to kind of build to that kind of level and that kind of growth? And what was it like when you had achieved that?
Well, when you start off in a company, you just want to make a living. You're just happy to be part of it. And we were
Yeah.
quite happy to be part of the athletic scene, and but we were optimistic. So you see opportunities, you grow a little bit, you grow a little bit, and then once we owned the UK market for athletics and running,
Mhm.
and we managed to keep Nike quiet, and we managed to hold our own against Adidas. And then when we got into America, and we were only a tiny company in America, so nobody knew us as a name, as an influence. Whereas Adidas and Nike, they were known as male, team,
Yeah.
sweaty. So it was difficult for them to turn over and go into the women's market, and that they held back. They held back because they thought it was just a phase, just a fad. These women would buy these shoes, and then that will be over with. Well,
Yeah.
it took us past both Adidas and Nike. And we became the number one global sports brand in
Right.
the mid to late 80s. So, uh, and I guess you could probably understand they didn't want to sort of see themselves as a women's company. There was performance, um, and they probably covered the big sports like American
Yeah.
football and also soccer for Adidas.
Yeah.
So so we were lucky just to be in that niche where we could take it. Nobody knew. We didn't know that it would grow that way. I mean, it was incredible. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and taking the company, and the biggest problem was product. We
Okay.
how to get enough product to satisfy that demand. Fortunately, I did Nike who'd had a tremendous growth, and
Hmm.
they found themselves slowing down, and they did find they had too much inventory. So
Okay.
they pulled out of a few factories in Korea, and just when we needed them, because we were going up to 5 million pairs a month, and that was like, how do you produce that? So that was our big
Yeah.
problem. So
Yeah, I guess timing is everything, right? And you obviously talked about product being a huge influence and how the growth in the women's market. I have a service-based business, but just like a successful product-based business, there's obviously some sentiment from people when they buy a certain product or use a certain service, how they feel or how that business makes them kind of feel a certain way. How did you go about trying to build that sentiment around the Reebok brand? Is there any advice you could give around, obviously having that sort of connection to a brand and how that obviously helps?
well, it's been going on since my grandfather in 1895.
Okay.
Influences. You've got to find how to influence your market. And
Hmm.
I had a friend who was also in the footwear business. He said, no, we're not going to use influencers. We're going to give value for money. In other words, they were going to make their products and it was going to have a lot of value. It wouldn't be expensive. And they
Yeah.
went out of business. They went out of business. They failed. So there is no other way, as far as I'm concerned. You need to find how to get your brand exposed and
Hmm.
how to influence people. And
Okay.
people buy cars the same way. People either want that badge. They either want a Mercedes, a BMW, whatever badge they want, a Porsche. These are the aspirational things. And if you're
Yeah.
going to inspire people to buy your product, one of the best that we had was the pump. When the pump came out, it was so
I want a pair of
expensive.
those.
You had a pair of those, you're right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so expensive. The kids were saying, I want this. And parents were saying, we can't afford them. We can't afford them. So they get themselves a
Mhm.
job. They go and do a paper round or whatever it was to get that pump. And that made a big impression. So if you
Yeah.
can find something, you get lucky with that. Apart from that, you've got to get your influencers like Shaquille O'Neal, Allen Iverson, and uh,
Hmm.
and Shaquille O'Neal is now president of the um, basketball uh,
Hmm.
sport for Reebok. Yeah.
Oh,
He,
wow. Okay.
yeah, he owns part of ABG, so he's in there, and they're really making a push now for the basketball business. And I think it's going to be. You should watch it. You should follow that because it's going to be very
Yeah.
interesting. The way
And
that
there's no bigger
yeah,
influencer than him in the basketball, kind of arena
absolutely,
right now.
yeah. So it's very the future is very interesting now because the brand is going to get a lot more visibility with
Yeah,
ABG. Going to get that
that's
visibility.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Obviously, you exited the company at a high kind of value, and you're still involved and kind of still involved in building the brand. What advice would you give to a founder who's looking to build their brand, for an exit or a high value? Um, and what kind of experiences could lend to that?
Well, in the first place, we and since writing the book, we go to colleges and other for the EMBA students and talk to them, and they always ask, "Okay, Joe, what was your exit plan?" And
Hmm.
we didn't have an exit plan. We never had an exit plan.
Yeah.
Um, the reason I stepped back is that during that growth with aerobics, we needed a lot of money,
Hmm.
and I could have said no. And then would Reebok have become the size it became? Probably not.
Yeah.
So, and it's all a question. Okay, do you want to own all the shares? Do you want to have that position, or do you want to see the company develop and grow and take its opportunity? So that was the decision. And for me, it was well, I'm a founder. They can't
Yeah.
change. Nobody can change the founder. So
Yeah.
your CEO, you can get fired or you can move on, whatever it is. But so for me, it was only a matter of how can we take the best advantage of this opportunity. So
Hmm.
you know that was it, and there was never really a plan to exit. It was just that happened to be the time.
Yeah, awesome. I think, throughout, throughout your business journey, and it'd be interesting to see your take on that. But, there's obviously mentors and coaches or people you lean on for advice throughout that journey. Did you do something like that to get kind of insights and, even that decision to obviously step aside to let the business grow, wouldn't have been an easy one. So, what impact has maybe having a second voice or an ear to kind of listen to you had in your growth as your business grew.
Well, I think if you go back to the 80s, we didn't have many mentors. The best
Hmm.
mentor I had was earlier than that, who was just in the footwear industry, and he helped us. Uh, he helped us grow. He helped us tool up. If I wanted a machine, he would just lend me a machine.
Hmm.
It was incredible, and meeting a lot of people who are in the same industry who would work with you.
Hmm.
Sometimes they don't want to work with you; they want to be you know, I don't say your enemy, but they certainly want to be your opposition. Uh, and I know that Nike and Phil Knight and Paul Feynman, they were at each other's throats, which is a different way of influencing people. And there's such a lot of things that went on in the growth of Reebok. But mentors, I think that we were in an industry, and when it gets to that size, there's not many people can mentor you. I think you've just
Yeah,
got
fair
to
enough.
learn it on the hoof. You've got to learn it. You've got to know, yes, keep moving forward. Keep a moving target. So.
Yeah.
And plus Nike tended to be purist and wanted to stay with performance. You couldn't mention the word fashion at Nike, not for a long
Yeah.
time. Now they're all fashion companies, and uh,
Yeah.
and Reebok took that move to lifestyle and lifestyle and fashion, uh, and that helped the growth. And they've been followed by Nike and Adidas, but still, Nike and Adidas are performance driven.
Yeah.
Really, still their influence is performance driven, whereas Reebok have been the one to be lifestyle driven. Although it does make you wonder now with Shaquille O'Neal back in there pushing away. So you can do lots of things. It depends where your strengths are, and
Yeah.
I guess since we've got Shaquille O'Neal and Allen Iverson uh, is his vice president, so. and they're just going like hell. They really are. They're really pushing that out. It's going to be fun, and
That's
that is,
great.
the main thing I think from any business is it's got to be fun.
100%. And I think a lot of the time people don't lose that fun and lose that energy in their business. So, I think there's a lot of advice there that I'd love to take on, and I really do appreciate your time. And definitely when you're in Australia, it'd be great to catch up.